So Ukraine has to have offensive capabilities. When Kiev's surrounded, you have to resupply. So here's what's happening. He's dead anyway, because he's not going to be able to defeat the synergy between technologies of the free world and the will of the Ukrainian people. So in that case, what he could do is to delay his death, is to secure a preferable situation, is to try to show that the war is profitable, that he's able to gain territorial expansion, at least territorial recognition for Crimea and Donbass. In that case, he cannot just settle for a white peace. He's dead if he do that, because in the kind of Byzantine politics of Russia, there's no fundamental spirit of the constitution anyway, which means whoever loses the power is dead. So the oligarchs are being hit very hard. They are going to turn on Putin at the first opportunity, and the generals even. And soon Putin would massacre the oligarchs, would just try to, launch the first blow. But that's another issue. So the idea is Putin has to take Kiev. Now, he has two ways. He either take Kiev or take all other areas of Ukraine to essentially make Kiev an island. But that's highly difficult. It's very difficult. So he has to take Kiev, and to do that, he had two options. Number one, the quicker one, weapons of mass destruction, poison gas, nuclear weapon, and so forth. Poison gas is very effective. He can just annihilate the Ukrainian civilians and soldiers who are not, I assume, not like universally equipped against chemical warfare. So, but that would basically give himself a death sentence if he loses the war, right? Or he's dead anyway. But so that's a quick way, but it requires a lot of determination, and he's preparing for it, I'm sure. But whether he would give the order, or whether the generals and soldiers would follow, they would probably follow the order. I mean, Russian, to be honest, are slaves. They are the reason that Putin has been ruling with an iron fist for 2 decades. Russian are slaves, to be honest. Although, to be fair, Chinese are even bigger slaves. Okay, setting that aside. Okay, that's number one option, WMDs. Number two is to encircle Kiev to starve it out. That's slower, but that's more conventional. But that's what the Russians have been doing also. So the Ukraine is having this problem. Ukraine has to have offensive capabilities, because when Kiev is surrounded, here's the thing. Zelensky's right. He cannot retreat from Kiev. He has to hold Kiev. He understood rightly that he has become a symbol of rally, of morale, of the Ukrainian people. The very existence of Ukraine is more of an idea and less of a territorial or governmental existence. Zelensky got that perfectly. So he has to stay in Kiev. Because if he stay in Kiev, even if Kiev is lost, even if he's dead or captured, well, he probably will fight to his death. Even if he's dead, there would be other people following his footsteps. Believe me, right? It's like when George Washington died fighting the British, there would be other founding fathers take up his arms and be the leader. So he has to stay in Kiev. But how to prevent Kiev from falling? You have to resupply it. And when Kiev is completely encircled, how do you resupply it? You can use mass drones But that has never been done before in human history. Use mass drones to resupply food and ammunition, especially food, for entire cities. That have never been done in human history. And Ukraine does not have the air power to use conventional manned aircraft to resupply Kiev. And the West is not going to help either, right? Which is, I think, I don't know. Should West send aircraft? I don't know. But the West surely can send mass drones. Okay, so it comes down to this. Ukraine has to rely on itself to break the siege to resupply Kiev. And for that purpose, Ukraine has to have offensive capabilities. So we're talking about armors, manned aircrafts, mass drones, artilleries. So heavy equipment plus drones. Because infantry with man-held missiles are not going to be an effective offensive force, right? It's very effective in defense, but it cannot expect infantry with NLAWs and javelin to open a corridor, against Russian armor with air support and artillery support to resupply Kiev. That's not going to happen. So Ukraine has to have offensive capabilities. And for that, you have to have armors. I don't know how well Ukraine is producing their heavy armors in their factories in an occupied area. I know Ukraine has a massive factory in Kharkiv, Kharkiv. But now Kharkiv is being leveled, so I don't know. So with that in mind, it seems you have to have tanks and aircrafts supported by the free world. We're talking about Leopard 2. We're talking about MiG-29 is the least that NATO can do from Poland. But we're talking about all the currently serving tanks and manned aircrafts from NATO. Yeah. Otherwise, Putin can well starve Kiev out. And here's the thing. If Ukraine falls into Russian control, Europe will starve, not only in terms of energy, but literally. Think about it. Ukraine is the biggest wheat exporter in the world, right? Yeah, in the world. And Ukraine has been the breadbasket of Europe for, the last decades. So it has been Russians' grand strategy in the past decades to control world oil and gas reserve. If you take a look at who managed to win the bid of the Iraqi oil and gas reserve, back in 2010s, it was the Russian and the Chinese. The Russian state-owned oil enterprises like Luke Oil, and they were trying to secure world oil and gas reserve in order to become the monopoly of such, to just demand whatever price they want. So they will be more than happy to also to monopolize the food output for Europe. So Ukraine. So here's the end goal of NATO and the free world. They cannot allow Ukraine to be a Russia, to fall under Russian sphere of influence. They cannot accept Ukraine to be a member of NATO or EU when Ukraine maintains its current territorial claims in Crimea and Donbass in conflict with Russia's claim. So the end goal of the West is this. Ukraine should be independent, but Ukraine better give up the claim to Crimea and Donbass and pro-Russia regions. So to have a more to be a more unified in terms of ethnically, in terms of linguistically, and soon religiously, because Ukraine built its own Orthodox Church against the Orthodox Church in Moscow not long ago. They had a reformation, so to speak. So Yeah. So an independent pro-West Ukraine without the pro-Russia territories is the West endgame. It should be the West endgame. I don't know what the West want to do. And again, back to the topic, Ukraine has to have offensive capabilities. So the West, for that endgame, they have to eventually supply Ukraine with heavy equipment and mass drones.